So we'll start with the prayers. You can repeat after me. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Om
Om
Sadashiva
Sadashiva
Samarambam
Samarambam
Brahmam
Shankaracharya
Shankaracharya
Madhyamam
Madhyamam
Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam
Asmadacharya
Vande
Paryantam
Guru
Vande
Paramparam
Guru Paramparam
Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini
Saraswati
Saraswati Namastubhyam
Namastuvyam Varade
Varade
Kamarupini
Kamarupini
Vidyarambham karishyami siddhirbhavatu me sada.
Vidyarambham
Vidyarambham
karishyami
Karishyami
siddhir me
Siddhirabhavatu
sada.
Sada
Om Sahana Vavatu
Om
Om Sahana
Sahanavavatu
Bhavatu
Sahanau Bhunaktu
Sahanau Bhunaktu
Sahanavabhunaktu
Saha Viryam Karavavahai
Sahaviryam
Sahaviryam
Karavavahai
Karavavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma
Tamastu
Vidvishavahai.
Mavidvishavahai
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Vasudendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Vasudevendra Yogindram
Vasudevendram
Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Jnanapradam
Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bhidhiyate
Mumukshunam
Mumukshunam
Hitarthaya
hitarthaya
Tattvabodho
Tattva
Bhidhiyate.
Right. Om Namah Shivaya. Welcome everybody.
Om Namah Shivaya.
So I will be keeping everybody on mute and you can unmute yourself if you have something to say and then please go back to mute. Okay. So last class we finished the first topic of Tattva Bodha, which is called Sadhana Chatushtayam, or the fourfold qualifications required for eligibility for Jnanam. Okay, in order to be eligible for Jnana Yoga, there are 4 qualifications required, and they are Vivekaha, which is discrimination, Vairagyam, dispassion, Shatka Sampatti, which is the inner discipline, and Mumukshutvam, the desire or the longing for moksha. And we saw all of these in detail in the previous classes. And under Shat Sampatti, there are 6. So we have Shama, which is Mano Nigraha, controlling the mind, Dhamma, which is control over the sense organs, Uparamaha, which is quietude of mind, Titiksha, which is endurance, tolerance, forbearance, Shraddha, faith, and faith on the words of the scriptures and the teacher, and Samadhanam, which is concentration, one-pointedness of the mind. So we saw all this last time, and we also saw this verse, which was the concluding verse of the first topic. It said, Etat sadhana chatushtayam. This above described is sadhana chatushtayam, the fourfold qualifications. And he says, Tataha tattva vivekasya adhikarino bhavanti. So the one who has this sadhana chatushtayam, he is called adhikari. Okay, the eligible student, adhikari student. And eligible for what? He says tattva vivekasya, this word here. Okay, eligible for inquiry into the reality, inquiry into the truth. Now, this Tattva Viveka is basically, it means the same thing as Atma Jnanam, okay, self-knowledge. Now, till now, the author has been talking about this Atma Jnanam, self-knowledge, Tattva Viveka, but he has not actually told us what it is. He has just said there is something called self-knowledge and it is important and this is what you have to study and this is how you are eligible for it. But what is this Tattva Viveka? That he has not yet told us. And the student obviously catches this point, and so he asks the question, what is this Tattva Vivekaha? Okay, and this we will read. So you can unmute yourself, please. Tattva Vivekaha
Tattva-viveka-kaha
Atma Satyam
Atma Satyam
Tadanyat
Tadanyata
Sarvam Mithyeti.
Sarvam Mithyeti.
Right. So this is the beginning of the second topic of Tattva Bodha. Now these are not official topic chapter divisions, okay? It's not done by the author. It is done by later teachers for easier understanding. The verses are grouped into 5 major topics, and these are the this is the beginning of the second topic, okay? And the name of the second topic is called Vyashthi Vicharaha. Vyashthi means individual or microcosm, and Vicharaha means analysis or enquiry. So analysis into the individual, inquiry into the individual or the microcosm is Vyashthi Vicharaha, and it begins with this. The student has now asked the question, Tattva Viveka Kaha. What is this Tattva Vivekaha? What is exactly Atma Jnanam? What is this self-knowledge that you keep talking about? And so the teacher has given a one-line answer, one-line summary answer. He says, Atma Satyam. Okay. Translation is, Atma is Satyam. Tad Anyata. Tad Anyata is 2 words, Tat plus Anyata. Anyata means other than, and Tat means that. So Tad Anyata means other than that. So Atma is Satyam, other than that, Sarvam, everything, Mithyeti. Mithyeti is 2 words, Mithya, Iti. Okay. So he says, other than that, everything is Mithya. Iti. Iti means this is how it is. So as you can see, 3 new words have been introduced here, which are Atma, Satyam, and Mithya. Now these are very technical words, and they are what we call Sanskrit non-translatables. Okay, meaning there are no equivalent English words for these words. Some people do attempt to translate them. They call Atma as soul and Satyam as real and Mithya as unreal. But personally, I don't like these English words because they convey the wrong meaning and they don't convey the complete meaning. And many times the English words actually cause more confusion than clarification. So we will try to stick with the Sanskrit words itself. And now we are going to see a detailed explanation for all of these words. Okay, and these technical words in Sanskrit, they are called paribhasha. Right, so 3 new words are there. He said Atma is Satyam, everything else is Mithya. And now we have to see what is Atma, what is Satyam, and what is Mithya. So first, let's look at the word Atma. So every individual consists of two parts, not just individual, everything in the universe consists of two parts, Atma and Anatma. Atma is the immortal, invisible, inner essence. Immortal means it never dies. Invisible means that you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't touch it, you can't perceive it with any of your sense organs. And inner essence, okay, it is the reality, it is the essence of who you are. Then there is Anatma. So Anatma literally means that which is not Atma. So in other words, it is almost like the opposite of Atma. So this Anatma is mortal, perishable. Okay, it is subject to destruction. And Anatma is visible. You can touch it, you can feel it, and it is available to your sense organs. And it is the outer layer. Okay, so opposites. That one, Anatma is mortal, visible, and the outer layer. Atma is immortal, invisible, and the inner essence. Okay, so this is a simplistic understanding of what Atma is, and for now we will keep this, and as we go on, the understanding will refine and we will go into more detail about what is Atma. So every individual consists of both these parts, Atma and Anatma. Okay, so this is the word Atma for now, simplistically. Now we have to go to two more new words, Satyam and Mithya. Now these are two, pair words. They are like two sides of the coin. They go together. And now we will try to understand what is Satyam and what is Mithya. We will use an example to understand this. So look at the table in front of you, right? Now suppose I ask you, does this table have weight? What will you say?
Yes.
Yes, table has weight. Okay, suppose I tell you, can you touch and feel this table?
Yes.
Yes. Does this table support your books? Does it support the
Yes.
weight of the books?
Yes.
Yes. So table is substantial and it is there and you can touch it, feel it, it has weight, it has mass. Now what if I tell you that there is actually no such substance called table at all? The only substance there is wood. And table is only the name given to a particular shape of the wood. Right? If the wood has a different shape, then you will call it a chair or a door or a window. But it is actually not the table which has the weight. It is the wood that has the weight. When you touch and when you can feel it, you are feeling the wood, right? And when you place your book, that is placed on the wood. The wood is supporting the book. The mass is provided by the wood. And so table is actually a nominal, non-substantial entity. Do you understand this?
Yes.
Okay. So table is only the label that is given to a particular shape of the wood. In other words, actually there is no such substance called table at all. It is only a nominal existence, non-substantial existence. Okay? So when you inquire into the truth of the table, there is really no such substance called table, and the only reality of the table is wood. The truth of the table, upon inquiry, is wood. and table is only a name given to a shape. And this is called name form existence. So table is a name and form existence. Because it has a particular form, we have given it a particular name, and so it is only a nominal existence. We call this as Nama Rupa. Okay, the reality is actually wood, but table is a Nama Rupa, name and form existence. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's understand the relationship between table and wood a little more. Okay. This Nama Rupa, that is the table, cannot exist separately or independently. It is inseparable from the wood. Suppose I tell you, you keep the wood, give me the table. Is it possible? You keep the wood, give me
No.
the table, only the table, without the wood.
No.
Not possible, right? So this Nama Rupa cannot exist separately or independently. So in other words, it has borrowed or dependent existence. Okay, it is borrowing existence from the wood, or it is dependently existent on the wood. So Nama Rupa cannot exist on its own. It is dependent on the wood for its existence, and they are inseparable. The Nama Rupa can be many, okay, but the substance is only one. Suppose in the same example, we take wood again. Wood is one substance only, but you can have many Nama Rupa of wood, right? You can have table, chair, window, door, so many things. But the substance is only one, and Nama Rupa can be many. Okay? And if this Nama Rupa is destroyed, the substance still exists. If you break the table, the wood is still there, right? Now remember, we are not talking about the destruction of the wood itself. We are talking about the destruction of Nama Rupa, the name and form. So if the table, which is Nama Rupa, is destroyed, in other words, it has to be broken. So if the table is broken, then the wood still continues to exist, right? So the wood can be said to have independent existence. It is not dependent on Namarupa. However, Namarupa is dependent on wood, right? The table is dependent on wood, but Namarupa, but the substance itself is not dependent on Namarupa, right? Namarupa depends on substance, but substance does not depend on Namarupa. Is this clear to everyone? Any questions?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So once this concept is understood clearly, then we can extend this and we can say that whatever has independent existence is called Satyam, and whatever has dependent existence is called Mithya. Okay, so in the example of the table and the wood, the table is called Mithya and the wood is called Satyam. Okay, so table is Mithya, wood is Satyam. Now, when it comes to this world, this creation, Shastra says that there is only one thing that is Satyam. There is only one thing that has independent existence, and that is Atma. Okay, and so that is why in the previous line, the author has written Atma Satyam. Atma is Satyam. Atma is independently existent. Everything else is dependently existent. Mithya, dependent existence. Okay? Everything else in the world that we can touch and feel and that we see, including our own bodies, that is all Mithya. It is dependently existent. And Satyam or Atma is the only thing that exists independently. Okay? And I just want to add here that some people, sometimes you might come across the translation of Mithya as unreal and Satyam as real. Okay, so not to get confused, many people take it literally. When if I say this pen is unreal, it is not to be taken literally, because literally unreal means it's not there. But this pen is very much here, right? I am touching it, I can see it, right? So you have to understand that it is dependent existent. Okay, Mithya means it is dependent on something else for its own existence. And Satyam means that which is not dependent on anything else for its existence. Okay, and there is only one entity which is independently existent, and that is Atma. Right? So whenever you come across words like real and unreal, you have to mentally replace as dependent and independent existence. Then it will make a lot more sense. Otherwise, it will lead to a lot of confusion. Okay, any questions still here? Okay, no questions. Fine. So this Satyam and Mithya concept is the foundation concept of Vedanta. This is the key. If you understand this, you have understood Vedanta. There's nothing more. Okay. But this has to be very, very properly understood and assimilated. Okay. And then that's it. That is Vedanta. It's very simple, right? Okay. Now, just to drive home this point a little bit more, there's a small story. Some of you may have heard this before, but still, it's a good story to understand this point. So, once upon a time, there was a merchant, and he was a very wealthy, rich merchant, and he was also a huge devotee of Rama, Lord Rama. Okay, very huge bhakta. And he used to worship Lord Rama every day. And so for this worship, he had an idol of Rama made of gold, solid gold. Okay, and it was not just Rama, it was the whole set. So you may have seen there's Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, Hanuman, the whole family, there's a set. So he had the whole set made out of gold, and he used to worship this every day. And one day, as it happened, his business went into a loss and he went bankrupt. He lost all his money. And it came to a situation where he had to sell this golden Rama set. So he took the whole set to the goldsmith and he asked for the value, the valuation. And the goldsmith took each piece. He took Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, and Hanuman, and he gave the value. And as it happened, the Hanuman value, the value of the Hanuman statue was more than the Rama statue. Yeah, obviously, because probably the Hanuman statue was heavier, right? Now, the merchant had a huge problem with this and he started fighting with the goldsmith. He said, how can Hanuman be worth more than Rama? That's not possible. Why? Because, Rama is, after all, the Lord, and Hanuman is just his humble servant. How can Hanuman be worth more than Rama? And the goldsmith tries to explain to him that, see, it is not, I'm not looking at this. it is based on the weight of the gold, right? So this merchant, because he was so caught up and identified with the nama rupa, with the shape and the name of the gold, he got into problems and he was not able to see past that. Whereas the goldsmith sees only gold, right? It doesn't matter to him what is the shape of the gold. For him, what matters is the gold only, right? And so, in a way, the goldsmith is a gold jnani. He is a wise person when it comes to gold because he is not, distracted by nama rupa. And this is what all of us do in life also. We look or we focus so much only on the mithya aspect, the nama rupa aspect, and without focusing on the satyam aspect. And this is the cause of most of our problems. This focus on the nama rupa. Okay. So in Vedanta, the vision is to shift from this nama rupa, this insubstantial nominal existence, to the reality which is satyam. Shifting the vision from mithya to satyam. Okay. And understanding the difference between the two. That is the crux of Vedanta. Right. Any questions now? Okay. So,
Medha ji,
yes.
can we explain all this scientifically?
In what sense?
Like you said that wood is the substance and table is the nama rupa. Similarly, gold is the substance and Ram Darbar is the nama rupa. So, but when all these substances, when they are actually hydrocarbons, and that is what I meant when I said, can you explain it scientifically? Can it be?
Unfortunately, no. The thing about science is that everything that science deals with is anatma only. Science can never deal with the topic of atma because atma is not available to any instrument. It is invisible. You will see, we will see these details later, but it is invisible. It is, so subtle that no instrument can ever detect atma. There is no scientific world about the nature of consciousness and all these things, but they finally, whatever they can deal with is anatma only. It is mithya only because they are using anatma to analyze anatma. Anatma can never be used to analyze atma.
Right.
So no, this cannot, be explained in the sense of hydrocarbons and atoms and subatomic particles because all of those are also mithya. Right. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Just I'm wondering, Atma and Anatma terms are basically useful to approach the phenomenal world, no? At the end of the day, everything is Brahman, no? Then just what is the question is, what is the helpful? What is helpful or why is useful to use an Atman and Anatman? What is the helpful thing of this approach?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, let me just clarify that Atma is equal to Brahman. Okay, Brahman and Atma are same thing. Just two words to talk about the same thing. They're not different things. Okay, so when you say everything is Brahman, it's the same as saying everything is Atma. So that is point number one. So why this approach is necessary is to understand the difference. This, initially, as you start the study of Vedanta, initially a separation must be made, okay, to understand, see, this is Mithya and it is not Atma, and this is Atma, just to get clarity on what is Atma and what is not Atma. But finally, as we progress in Vedanta, you will come to the conclusion that everything is Atma. For example, if you take the clay and the pot, the clay, when it acquires a new shape, is the pot, right? Can you say that clay, this pot is different from clay, right? So because the pot is dependently existent on clay, can you ever separate or say they are different? Can the pot exist separate from the clay? It cannot, right? So in that sense, pot is clay, but clay is not pot alone. And so that is why when we say everything is Atma, but Atma is not this Namarupa, or Brahman is not this Namarupa. And as we progress, these ideas will become more and more clear. So in fact, the entire study of Vedanta is basically this idea of Satyam and Mithya presented in different ways, just to drive home the understanding. And if you understand this, Vedanta is complete. It is over. It is understood. Okay. And in fact, Shankaracharya's famous half a shloka description of Vedanta is there, right? If he has to describe Vedanta in just one line, he says, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. The first part of that, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, is this. Brahma is Satyam, Jagat, the world, is Mithya. Okay, the world is dependently existent on Brahman or Atman. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So, just for a little more understanding, I have taken a verse from Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, 16th verse. Slightly advanced stuff, but will give you a small taste of what is to come. And the verse goes, Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drishtontaha, tvanayostattvadarshibhihi. So the meaning in this is that Krishna is talking about Satyam and Mithya. Okay, that is why this verse is relevant to us at this stage. He's talking about Satyam and Mithya in a slightly convoluted way, and he doesn't exactly use the words Satyam and Mithya. But that is the topic under discussion. So if you look at the first half, he says, Nasato vidyate bhavaha. It breaks as na asataha vidyate bhavaha. What it means is that asat never has existence. Okay, and here the word asat means mithya. Here when Krishna says asat, he means mithya. So he says mithya never really has any existence. Mithya, why? What is that supposed to be understood as? It never has independent existence. Okay, so he's telling Mithya never has existence. This asat vastu, the asat thing, never has any existence. And the second part he says, na abhavaha vidyate sataha. The sataha never has non-existence. Okay, double negative, so be careful. Sataha never has non-existence. In other words, this Atma or Brahman, which is basically what is Sataha, it is always there. Never has non-existence means it is always there, right? Double negative. So this Atma or Brahman, it is Sataha, it is always there, always existent. Okay, now let's try to go a little deeper into this, and we will first try to understand with the help of an example. So imagine fire. Okay, fire is always hot, right? Even if you take fire to Siberia, does it become cold? No. Fire is always hot. By its own nature, it is hot. So this heat of the fire is inherent to the fire. It is always there, right? And you can never separate it. Fire is hot. That is the understanding. Whereas, suppose you heat water in a vessel. That heat is borrowed from the fire. Water on its own is not hot, right? If you leave water alone, it's not hot. It has to borrow heat from the fire. And once the fire is taken away, again the water cools down, because on its own water is never hot. So this heat of the water is not an inherent property of the water, like how it is with fire, right? Fire, the heat of fire is inherent, it is always there, whereas the heat of water is borrowed. It is, it comes and goes. It is not always there. So this inherent or intrinsic nature, in Sanskrit we call it Swabhavika Dharma here. Okay, Swabhavika Dharma. And the heat of water, which is borrowed, which is incidental, we call this as Agantuka Dharma. The whatever attribute or whatever nature is inherent or intrinsic, it is always there, right? You can never remove that quality. That is why you can never remove the heat of the fire. Even if you take it to Siberia, the fire is hot. Whereas something that is of an incidental nature, something that is borrowed, it comes and goes. It is subject to departure. And that is why the water, after some time, it cools down, right? It is never permanently hot. Okay. So is this example clear? The meaning of Swabhavika and Agantuka Dharma, is this clear?
Yes, Medha ji, it's clear.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So that is Swabhavika Dharma, the inherent or its own nature, whereas Agantuka is a borrowed nature. Now, when we look at objects in the universe all around us, we have already discussed once that all objects are impermanent, meaning they are subject to destruction, subject to be perished. It is possible for every object in the universe to be destroyed. There is a date of birth and there is a date of expiry, including your own physical body, including the planet Earth, including the sun, everything, right? They are all subject to departure, which means what? They come into existence and then they go out of existence. And for a brief, limited time, they remain in existence. Which means what? That existence for all objects in the universe is of a coming and going nature, right? It is not always there. It comes and goes. Which means existence for all objects in the world is incidental nature. It is Agantuka Dharma. Existence of objects in the universe is borrowed. Okay? And so Where does it borrow from? It has to borrow from Atma. And Atma Swabhavika Dharma, the intrinsic nature of Atma is existence. And that is why we say Atma is existence principle. Why? By its own nature, it is existence. It permanently exists, and the whole world borrows existence from this Atma. And that is why it is incidental. It comes and goes. That is why objects are subject to coming and going. They're subject to destruction. And the second part of the line says, Ubhayor api drishtontaha tvanayo sattvadarshibhihi. The one who sees this difference very clearly, the one who understands the nature of Atma and Anatma, the one who understands Anatma has existence as Agantuka Dharma, whereas Atma has existence or enjoys existence as a Swabhavika Dharma. This difference, the one who understands it very, very clearly, he is a wise person, an enlightened person, a jnani. Okay. So basically, it's very easy to become jnani. You just have to understand this difference very, very clearly. So enlightenment is nothing mysterious. Just understanding and assimilating this difference between Atma and Anatma very, very clearly. That is what the Krishna says. The person who understands, he is called a wise person, an enlightened person. Okay, any questions? So to help you understand this a little bit with another example, we can again take the example of pot and clay. Okay, that is a classic example in Vedanta, is going to keep coming again and again. So there is clay first, right? And then the clay becomes a pot, and when the pot breaks, the clay is still there. So before the pot, there was clay. After the pot breaks, there is clay. And in between, briefly, there is a pot. So the pot enjoys incidental or borrowed existence. And where does it borrow existence from? It borrows from the clay, right? Pot is dependent on clay for existence. So it enjoys borrowed existence for an amount of time. And in the example, in the context of the example, the clay enjoys intrinsic existence. Okay, the clay is existent before and after and during the pot, and so the clay enjoys intrinsic or inherent existence. Okay, and this is the difference between Satyam and Mithya. Mithya borrows existence, it is dependently existent. In other words, for Mithya, existence is a agantuka dharma, incidental nature. And there is only one entity to borrow existence from, which has swabhavika existence as a swabhavika dharma, and that is Atma. Okay, so this is Satyam and Mithya. Any questions? No? Digesting?
So that means mithya is dependent on satyam.
Yes.
So there is some amount of satyam in mithya.
It's like some amount of satyam in mithya. It's like, is there some amount of clay in the pot?
Medhaji, I have one observation if I can just ask you.
Yes.
So everything, whether it is clay or it's gold, it is all tangible, something that we as our perception can perceive. Similarly, so comparing it is easy because human beings can understand this is clay, this is gold. But something like Atma, which we cannot see, which is intangible, how do we associate and figure out this really exists? Do we just take it that scriptures say it, so it's right? It's taken as pramanam.
So you are right. The difficulty arises because Atma is invisible and it's, not so obviously known, Uh, it is revealed to us through Pramanam, through the Shastras, but Shastra says that this existence of Atma is self-evident. It is kind of obvious. It's just that we kind of miss it all the time. And they use a lot of logic and arguments and to prove this point again and again about the existence of Atma. It cannot be proved in the scientific sense, but it can be understood through intellect and logic.
Thank you.
Okay. And just as a concluding note, this agantuka dharma, this incidental nature, this impermanent nature of things, is why we discussed previously that do not develop attachments to these objects. Why? Because they come and they go. And when they go, if there is too much attachment, it causes a lot of pain, right? It becomes a painful separation the deeper the attachment is because of this incidental nature. That's not to say you should avoid the objects. You can still enjoy the object, but remember agantuka dharma. Okay. Any more questions?
Didi, can you repeat this slok again?
This Bhagavad Gita?
Yes.
You all want to chant? You can repeat after me. Everyone can unmute and repeat.
We can chant by while unmute or mute. Otherwise, lot of noise are there and we can't hear the proper pronounce of the words.
Okay. You all can try to repeat. Unmute yourself. If you have too much noise in the background, then you can stay on mute. Okay, so you all can repeat. Nasato vidyate bhavaha
नासतो विद्यते भावः
na bhavo vidyate sataha
न भावो विद्यते
विद्यते
सतः
सतः
ubhayorapi drishtontaha Vanayostatvadarshibhihi
वनयो सत्त्वदर्शिभिः
Vanayostatvadarshibhihi
Manayostasva
तत्त्वं
darshibihi.
It breaks here, it becomes tva. Tvanayostatva. Okay, so we are actually done for today. It's a heavy topic, so I will stop
I
here.
want to ask one question.
Yeah,
Can I ask?
yes, please.
Yeah. So lastly, you told about attachment and detachment. So you just to know, you know the object, and it is not like. But I just want to ask the question is ki, how to remain like we are attached, like I am attached. So how to remain detached? How to detach? Because knowing is there, but just for means how to detach, that is very difficult.
Okay, have you attended the previous classes of Tattva Bodha?
No, not
So this
yours.
was explained in great detail there. Detachment doesn't mean separation from that object, or it doesn't mean distancing or remaining aloof from that object, or emotional unavailability is not detachment. Okay, so that has to be understood carefully. This is the problem with English words, they convey the wrong meaning. So you have to remember always that the object is subject to departure, including your own physical body, the physical bodies of everyone around, okay, and all objects, your phone, your house, your car, everything, okay. Everything will one day be, it will not be here in this form at least, including the very planet, the very sun, okay. That may happen long time later, but still even the earth is subject to destruction. So constantly remembering this, that is the key. Okay, so Shankaracharya in Viveka Chudamani, he calls it dosha darshanam. And even Krishna in 13th chapter, he also calls it dosha darshanam. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Okay, so he says constantly remembering these, what do you say, defects or problems associated with attachment. Okay, can you all hear me? Can you hear me? Am I um am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry, there was a brief internet disconnect. Right. So I was saying that constantly remembering this, defects of attachment. What is the defect of attachment? What happens if you get over attached to something? There is going to be inevitable heartbreak, okay, at the end of this. So constantly remembering that the body is subject to decay, disease, old age, death, constantly remembering this and developing the willingness to give up an object when the time comes, right? That is vairagya. The willingness to, or the preparedness to give up the object. That is vairagya. And that you have to constantly remind yourself, constantly work on it, then it is possible. We don't like to think usually about death, no? But that has to change.
Yes.
We don't like
Yes.
to.
Yes. That is what I was asking, because I lost my mother and I'm still not able to forget her.
Right.
No. And when I think of detachment, no, there is some fear going on in me constantly. So how to get out of that fear? So I think you just explained, I need to constantly think about all this what you told about. So
And
I
when
need
it
to.
comes to death, it's we have not done this yet, but really nothing dies. The body doesn't, the body has dropped. It has just changed form from the human form to a decomposition. It has joined the earth or the fire or whatever. So actually there's no destruction there. It is just a transformation. And we will see later that the Sukshma Shariram, the jiva, that is anyway not destroyed. It just travels to the next body and it picks up the next body. So when somebody dies, does anything really die is the question. There is nothing to cry for because there is actually no death. But this takes a long time to accept this mentally. Okay, and any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah.
Right, so then we can stop. It is time up, and we'll continue in the next class with the topics related to the individual, the Vyashti Vicharaha. Okay, so we can end with Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. That's it. Thank you all and see you next
Thank
week.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Medhaji.
Thank you, Medha.
Thank you, Medhaji.
Oh, yeah.